In this video, I will show you how you can use grids inside of Photoshop. Grids is another way for you to be able to align and make adjustments and cuts and selections a little easier. So here we have a basic project file, and if we go to the top and we go to View, and we go down to Show, and you can see Show Grid, Control or Command plus the apostrophe button. If we select that, it brings up a grid on the screen. This might be hard to see, so let me just go ahead and create a new layer. And we're just going to fill this with an easy color to see here. And we'll hide this. So now you can see I've hidden that image that actually has a grid on it, so it might be kind of hard to tell. So I've turned that off, and now you can see Photoshop's actual grid. And this is really nice because when I pick a tool and I go to View and we go down to Snap, if we have Snap to Grid on, anything that we create will snap to this grid. So if I start creating a rectangle with my selection tool, it's actually snapping to the points of this grid. Now, I can't go outside of this grid because of the snapping, so you might want to turn that off if you need that. But this is great because I can make selections very easily based on a grid system. This is great for things like web design work where I need to have specific grid measurements, and the amounts that I want to snap to makes it really easy for me to make those selections. It's the same thing with anything else such as text and shapes. If I create a shape, I can get the shape to snap to the grid also, making it nice and easy for us. Now you might want to change the way that this grid looks, and you can do that in the preferences. So if we go to Edit, Preferences, and then we go to Guides, Grids, and Slices. This gives us the ability to change the look of our grid. So you can see we have the guides that we can change, the grid, the slices, and the paths. Under grid, we can give it a different color. So if this is hard to see, we can change that color here to a different color. That might be easier for us to see based on our project. We can change the actual line. So do we want to be thick lines, dotted lines, or so forth? And then we can tell how much we want to subdivide and how often we want this grid to repeat. So for instance, if we change it to 8 subdivisions, it's subdividing a lot more. If I do 2 subdivisions, you can see that it has subdivided only 2 times within every box or grid. And then we can change how often they happen. I'm in inches, but you can also change this to pixels, or if you want to go to metric, if you're using metric, you can do that too. So for pixels, that's 1 grid for every pixel. That's way too much. Maybe we do every 100, and now we have a much easier grid that we can see and we can snap to. Every 100 pixels, there's a grid, and it's subdivided twice. And now whenever I make my selections, it'll snap to that grid based on our settings. If we want to turn that off, go to View, Snap to, and turn off grid, and then now we can see our grid, but it won't snap to those lines. So it just gives us another way to easily work inside of Photoshop to speed up our workflow and make selections and shapes and other things in Photoshop a lot easier by using a grid. And if I go ahead and hit the shortcut to turn it off, Control or Command apostrophe, and you look at something like a blueprint, you would be using grids a lot because you need to have those exact measurements.